Hello, this is Dragon Tame 1400, and this is All Grown Up Season 5, Episode 1 review. The name of the episode is Susie Goes Bad Lite. It's Lite, and I looked it up. It's pronounced light. And I was like, I always wondered, like, maybe it's Susie Goes Bad a little, or I don't know. They don't use the word little, so but the name being the side, I did think this was a great episode in terms of like character development for Susie, Angelica, and Phil for the side plot. But we'll get into Phil later. Basically, what we got going on here is Susie is really like kind of down, that not really down, but she really wants to do something bad, and she really can't. She's like Miss Perfect, Miss Goody Goody, and she wants to kind of prove to herself, when we find later on in the episode, she wants to prove to herself that she can do bad things, just like Angelica. Now, Susie does do some bad stuff, some pranks and everything, and it's Brianna or Savannah, one of the two, that really kind of mentioned to do this one stupid thing about getting some sneakers off of an abandoned building that are hanging by a telephone wire, or whatever the wire is. Really stupid, really. Not really bad. Just something that kids kind of do stupid things every once in a while. So Angelica and Susie decide to go there, but then they decide not to do it because they decide it was still stupid. So Angelica goes home, but Susie stays because she wants to prove to herself that she is not perfect. So she goes up there, and Angelica gets informed by Lil and Kimmy that Susie's still there. So Angelica ends up going up and convinces Susie not to do it. However, Susie begins to fall. Angelica catches her, and the whole like platform fire escape begins to fall as well. And you end up with these two like hanging by the shoes themselves, waiting for Lil and Kimmy to get the cops back to save them. So everything turns out good in the end. Like, they get saved. Susie's dad kind of really goes off on Susie, and Susie ends up admitting that she was the one who did it. It wasn't Angelica. Angelica was trying to stop her. But once Angelica realized that it would go on her like permanent record because they were stopped by the police and everything, Angelica ended up taking the blame, and it was like just a really nice like friendship moment between Susie and Angelica. When it comes down, like I said, when it comes down to it, these two may have like a sisterly rivalry going on, but at the same time they are like sisters in the sense that they will always stick up for each other when the need arises, really. So I thought this episode really demonstrated that extremely well, that they can butt heads they butt heads all the time, and they compete and they do all these things, and we'll see it in an episode coming up as well. But at the end of the day, they will always remain good friends, and they will always like be there for each other. So that was really good. Now the side plot deals with Phil, and Phil ends up going to a cooking class, and basically he's just this amazing chef, like incredible chef. Like, he's really just amazing. He's able to do all these things without like little to no training, and it just comes like easy to him. He just picked it up, kind of. He's just naturally gifted at cooking. So he kind of becomes a cooking snob, and Chucky and Tommy really don't like it, and he even makes like Tommy's mom cry. We don't get to see it, but Tommy talks about it. And anyway, so what ends up happening is Phil ends up like demonstrating his cooking talents, but he ends up like itching his butt, and everyone, like, he gets kind of kicked out because of his hygiene, because you have to have good hygiene to be like a chef or whatever, and we all know that Phil doesn't have good hygiene. So that was really good to incorporate that, and Phil was like okay with it. He's like, I'll find something else I'm good at, and I'm sure he will, and I'll bring that up in another episode that this episode does relate to. But I do think that like Phil's talent relies in like art itself. Like, I think he's really gifted at like any form of art, and he just has to kind of put the time in. And I think cooking probably is like his most gifted talent, but like any form of art, he can become good at with like training. Now, okay, so character development wise, great to see Phil without Lil being developed. I wish we got to see Lil without Phil, but that's just not the case, and that won't be the case in the entire series. However, it was good to see at least one without the other, and we got to see Phil like demonstrate a talent. And I don't know if he learned anything from all this, but at least, we got to see him have a talent. Now, as for Susie, we have seen in the past Susie do some bad things. In that one episode dealing with Angelica, I think it's In the Family's Way, that Angelica comes over and Susie actually changes the chore chart for Angelica. And in a Dude, Where's My Horse, which Susie actually mentions, is that she tipped a cow. Now, in that episode, I think in Dude's Where's My Horse, she did actually succeed in tipping the cow. However, in this episode, she says she almost tipped a cow. So, I don't know. I'm glad they mentioned it, but at the same time, I wish they would have got it right. That being said, I really thought it was really good to see like a different side of Susie and kind of why she's Miss Perfect and Miss Goody Goody. It's just like kind of the way she is and the way, of course, she's been raised, and it is hard for her. However, we do get to see that she can do bad stuff. Now, Angelica's character, it was really great to see that she was willing to stick up for Susie and actually take the blame for everything at the end, and that she was the one that actually talked Susie down. I really like that dynamic between Susie and Angelica because they balance each other out. And it seems like in this episode, like the roles were reversed. And a lot of episodes, kind of the roles are reversed. Like In the Family's Way, it was like reversed as well. And in this episode too, it was like Susie was the one doing the bad thing, and Angelica was the voice of reason, instead of like the way around, where usually Angelica's doing the bad thing and Susie's the voice of reason. This was the reverse, and I really like that dynamic between those two, and it was just amazing to see that. Now, from a Christian standpoint, like the moral of this episode, I really don't like the moral that like you need to do bad stuff, because you really don't. You should do good stuff like all the time. You should not want to do bad stuff. But a good moral, however, a good moral of this episode is that really always be there for your friends, like sticking up for them, talking them out of doing bad stuff like Angelica did with Susie. That is a good moral, and from a Christian standpoint, we should try to talk our friends out of doing stupid stuff. Anyway, I'm gonna give this episode, there's nothing wrong with this episode. It was a great episode, solid 10 out of 10. It was amazing. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the review. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.